Hello and welcome to Northwest Knitting. My name is Kathy and this is my YouTube channel where I like to talk about my knitting projects, the yarns that I love, and my journey to make sustainable clothing. Thank you so much for joining me here today. You can find me on Instagram and on Ravelry as Northwest Knitting. Anything I talk about will be mentioned in the show notes below, and I'll have links, Ravelry links to all of the projects that I'm talking about. So let me tell you what I'll talk about today. I'll tell you what I'm wearing. I have one small finished object, a big work in progress, and a lot of ideas of 3 or 4 projects that I'm thinking of and have made some initial plans for. So I hope you'll be enjoying that. And I also will finish up with a book review. So I hope you have a cup of something. I am sitting here with my chai tea and my, this is a cup by Faye Nakamura. And she is a ceramicist and actually lives in my neighborhood. I don't usually find her work except sometimes she has a holiday open house, but I really do love it. I love the still life things that she has and also her people there. We call this the pink lipstick cup. We also have another one. Anyway, I'm having my chai in this, and I hope you have something comforting to sip on while, and maybe you have your knitting. So let me get started. I'm just going to have a very brief weather report. I don't know, you may have heard that in the Northwest we got slammed with a big ice storm about 2 weeks ago, and we had a thin layer of snow first and then freezing ice, and then it became a thick layer of ice. Then we had a little more freezing ice, and it was hard. For 4 days we were just pretty much stuck in the house. It was hard to even get out our front or back doors, and finally, on the 5th day, it started warming. We also had power out for about 15 hours, but we slept through most of that. And we do have a gas cook stove still. So that was actually useful in this event. And finally, on the 5th day, we went shopping, and it was, the lines had maybe 20 people in each line in the grocery store. And it was, everybody looked beleaguered and tired and ready for it to melt. But anyway, that's all over. And yesterday, we've had quite a bit of rain, which is our normal winter weather activity. But yesterday it went all the way up to 68, which was really crazy. So anyway, that's over, but I did get a lot of knitting done. I had one finished object that I can't show you because I've already given it away. I tried to record this and show you, but I just couldn't work it out. So I have a cute little baby sweater that has now gone to my granddaughter Ellie. And I have some pictures on Ravelry, and I'll put a link below, but I just couldn't manage to record in time to show you. So I'll tell you what I'm wearing, though. I'm wearing an older project that it appears I've never showed you this, and I didn't put it on Ravelry, and I have very limited notes about it. I don't know what that was all about. I think I didn't feel like I was quite finished for a reason I'll tell you. But this is the Perec vest by Orlane Sucche. And it is in Rowan felted tweed. I think the color is carbon. And let's see if I can show you. I have tried to limit my problem. People complain about too little light. I struggle with too much light in here, and I do have the curtains pulled as tightly as I can, but it's a struggle. So anyway, I'm sure that I added stitches down here for this nice loose ending, and I may have made this twisted rib. But it's a fairly straightforward vest. You have a choice of a folded over collar or a ribbed one. I chose the folded because I had never done it before. You do have a little ribbing here, and it's pretty simple. It comes out quite a bit. I have very small slopey shoulders. It comes out quite a bit this way. Part of me always thinks a vest is more this shape, but this wider look is more in fashion. Who knows? Maybe it makes my shoulders look broader. But I had a problem with the neck, and see this right here? I just could not. I've gone twice to take up the stitches, to pick up stitches and take fewer stitches, and I just couldn't get it. And I've been for 3 years intending to fix it. So I don't think it's the pattern's problem. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's my shape and lack of skill. Then I thought about taking this out and making a rib. But, I've had it for 3 years and haven't fixed it. So the odds are leaning towards the concept of not being fixed. So, which is kind of too bad. So maybe I will get up my energy. But I don't know about you. Do you have trouble going back to projects and fixing them? Maybe if we had a little fix along or something, we could do something like that. But anyway, I do like the pattern a lot. I recommend it. It's fingering weight. The Rowan felted tweed is 50% wool, and a merino wool, it's 25% alpaca, and then it is 25% rayon viscose. And I'm generally tending away from the rayon viscose, not because it is made of a natural fiber, but the process is involves quite a lot of harsh chemicals. But I do love Rowan felted tweed. It was very, very popular, and I have quite a bit of it left. I have lots of single skeins, maybe, maybe as much as 10 single skeins of it in some different colors. I've thought about doing, I have a shawl pattern I've set aside for that. It's also really good for accessories. So I will be using it up for sure. It's lightly felted ahead of time. I also kept it for a while, not using it, thinking that it might be something I could use for children's clothes, because it does say the instructions say machine wash and dry. Machine wash, cold, delicate, dry, flat. Those are the same instructions I'd find for superwash. And so I thought it could be possibly used for children. And it has a great hand, very nice to work with. DK, they call it DK. I really don't feel like it's DK. The pattern, the Perec vest calls for fingering weight, and to me, Rowan felted tweed can easily be used for fingering weight. So anyway, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but I did this vest back in January of 2021. At least that's when I bought the pattern, and I probably did make it within a month or two. But those are all my notes on that. So anyway, great pattern, and she has some nice new patterns out that I am looking for. I think I've made some other sweaters of hers, and a children's sweater, and I think one more thing. Oh, the Bonnie cardigan. And I have really found her patterns to be very, really good and useful. Nice designs. So anyway, that is what I'm wearing. So I am going to put on more clothing here. I have my Pressed Flowers cardigan by Savory Knitting, Amy Christopher's. I'm going to put that on because it will come up in conversation in a minute. And as you can see, it works over, this vest is really good over under a cardigan. It's light, and I'm definitely looking for some more vests because they keep you really, these fingering weight ones anyway, give you all kinds of warmth without any bulk. So that's nice. Also, a shout out to my friend Debbie, who gave me this Gap striped shirt as a hand-me-down. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Debbie. And today I'm wearing new earrings from my friend Barb, who's my son's mother-in-law, who has an Etsy, what do you call it? She's on Etsy, and she sells beautiful jewelry. And this one is just like another pair I have, but with a lighter stone. And I really like it. I do love to get what I already like. I'm not very good at like all the new things. So anyway, okay, so I do have half of a finished object. Oops. And I'll show that to you. It's a small thing, and I ran into a snag, but it shouldn't be too hard to finish it up. So these are a pair of mitts, and hopefully you can see that design. Okay, there you go. You can see it's got this interesting, it's not cabled, it's just a little texture added in there. But this is the Mountain Town mitt, and it also has, so this is by Elizabeth Dougherty, and I will show you the pattern. Maybe I can't find the pattern. Oh yeah. Okay, those are her version. And it also has, it's a set, and she also has, I am struggling today with paper, a really nice hat. And I'm thinking of doing the hat as a gift. But anyway, these are, she has a cowl too. Oh yeah, here's the how the hat fits, you can see. But it's just got, I really do like, you can see the texture design. It's really easy to do, but very satisfying. And what I've used for these is the Berocco Ultra Alpaca, half wool, half alpaca, and it's the same color as and the same yarn I use for my one of my ranunculus sweaters. The mitts call for, gosh darn it, well, Ultra Alpaca is supposed to be a worsted weight, and I think of it as more of a DK, and so I think that's what this calls for. But in the pattern, I do like it when they say, don't just go by the yarn, but it looks like, substitute the same yardage for a light worsted weight. And I guess you could say this is light worsted weight. So light worsted weight, I would say maybe DK. The gauge is 24 stitches. You know, when you're looking at patterns, like I'm working on a fingering weight sweater, my Alpine bloom that I'll show you in a few minutes, 24 stitches to the inch with fingering weight yarn. This is a light worsted, 24 stitches to the inch. It just seems that gauge is something very, very flexible, and I think being able to do the math and make the changes for the fabric you like is key to happiness in this hobby. I truly am always befuddled by that. But anyway, the snag I ran into is you could, her gloves probably go down to about here. And I made very long ones because apparently I repeated one of these little repeats here with the design, finished it all up, and I thought, wow, those are pretty long, but I don't mind. I like it up for warmth. It's really nice going up your sleeve, I think. And then I started working on the second one and discovered that I had misread the directions. So here I am on my second one, and the problem is I don't know exactly what the error was. So I'm trying to just finish these up and duplicate them. I was almost finished, and then I got to the gusset and I couldn't really tell. For some reason my gusset was way too short, and so that has made it a very simple project into something a little bit eye-crossing, but I will figure it out because I do want to wear these, and I love the yarn for these. The same yarn would make a beautiful hat out of this hat pattern. It would be really lovely, and I do have quite a few single skeins of the Ultra Alpaca that I will do probably for a gift pretty soon. But anyway, really nice pattern, very easy unless you try and make it harder like I did. So what else do I have? I have all kinds of things here. I do want to just give you an update on my Alpine bloom, which I abandoned to work on my scrappy Olivia Bell cardigan that I talked to you about last time. So where I am is I'll show you standing up, so I have finished the yoke, and I have almost a sleeve here. So I like to do the sleeves before I decide how long the body should be. And also I could get a better idea of the fit once I know how the sleeve's gonna fit. And the last time I showed you this, I had stopped right here, and I was doubtful about including this last leaf pattern. And I thought I would embroider a little, like stop here don't do the leaf, and then just add another little one of these little triangle things, not triangle, I forget what they call it, but anyway, right here. Well, I tried doing that and it was very hard to get the tension right when you've already done something. So I have to, I haven't ruled out doing more of that, but it was harder than I thought and didn't look as nice as I thought. So, and my husband was like, oh, do the whole thing. So I just was doubtful just because it's a lot of yoke on a short body. But I went ahead and did it. Took me way longer to do from here to here than it did all this. I don't know why. It was really weird. I had steam blocked I wet blocked this. I talk in great detail about doing that, and I talk in great detail about my yarn, which is the Jamieson and Smith 2-ply. Oh, I know I had these notes. And I talk about it previously in episode 28, how much I love this yarn here, the contrast colors, the Entropy DK. I have talked over and over about that, so I won't go into it too much. But this is the Jamieson and Smith cone that I'm using, and I had some issues of bleeding, and that's what I'm talking about quite a bit in episode 28. But so the pattern is intended to be a short sleeve pattern. It's the T. She later did the autumn Alpine bloom, but you could see this one had the lacy collar, which I wanted to try. It's hard to see that, but in this dark, but I wanted to try it, and I also knew with this yarn I absolutely had to have long sleeves. So what I did was when I picked up stitches, I just knit straight for quite a long time until I got, right around the elbow. I started decreasing about that often. And then when I do the next sleeve, I will take them one by one back over on the next sleeve to keep track. But yeah, here. So I am really close to doing the cuff, which will be an ordinary, I haven't decided between a 1x1 and a 2x or a 2x2 rib. But anyway, I had abandoned this for a while because I was at a decision point and I just had to pause. And that's when I was working on the other sweater. So I've worked on it quite a bit. It's fingering weight on size 3 needles, so it is taking a while, but an enjoyable project and not too much thinking at this point, except just making sure that it fits nicely. So hopefully, maybe the next time I see you, I will have that to talk about. So let me see what else I have on my needles. Well, I have a couple things. Oh, I wanted to tell you first about a mending issue. So I have a number of sweaters that I knit at a loose gauge, and you may well have too. I'm thinking of the sweaters that are intended to be knit at a loose gauge are both the Felix cardigan and pullover, my Lento, ranunculus. This is Mary Jane Mucklestone. Was somebody who started the trend with her stopover sweater. This is her Soul Bean that I knit probably in 2019, I think. And my one and only steek, which I am looking forward to getting back to. But this is knit and let lopey, and it has a very loose gauge for let lopey. So I wear this quite a bit. Love how warm. I just absolutely, when it's cold, I absolutely love let lopey. I really enjoy it, and being at a loose gauge has made it very light and airy, which is what makes wool warmer, I think, instead of wearing, it's interesting that people have knit wool so tightly traditionally, and that would be really good for blocking wind, but when you want warmth, the airiness, the air between the wool is often what keeps you warm, I think. At least that's what I keep hearing, and I do find it true for these sweaters. But I have been noticing that the elbows have been wearing quite seriously, and I need to do something. So let's see if I can find one. I started on one of them. Here it is. This side isn't so bad, but I don't know if you can see. It's just thinning quite a bit there in the elbow. So on the other side, I decided to, and I'm halfway through. Now I can't find it. It's around. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I think it's working better than I thought because I'm having trouble finding it. But so what I've done is I am duplicate stitching over this. So you can see how I still have some thin area. I'm moving my finger so you can see how thin it is. But I started duplicate stitching over it. I thought it was looking a little lumpy and bumpy, but I think when I block it after doing it, it isn't so bad. I'm just seeing a few places where the yarn seems to pull in a little. So I'm experimenting with that. I would love to hear from others what you think about the sturdiness of knitting at a loose gauge and what you're doing about elbows, or is it my particularly pointy elbows that are the problem, or any thoughts would be most welcome. I did see Patty Lyons had on her Instagram, she showed doing duplicate stitching and cutting out the old yarn. And so if I could find that and look at that again, maybe that would make it much less clumpy here. But I did find it harder to do than I thought. And I don't know if it's because the let lopey is so thick, and even though it's been fraying, it's still thicker added to the new stitches, just coming out too chunky. I don't know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Right now, I have to say, from this far away, I could probably live with that. So something I'd want to practice a little bit. I'm surprised. I know how to duplicate stitch, but for some reason it seems a little more challenging for me to get the tension right than I expected it to be. So anyway, thoughts on this would be most welcome. So, okay, where I am now, I'm going to take a sip of my yummy chai, which I put a little shot of maple syrup in, so I don't fade out on you while I'm doing. And there's some caffeine in this chai, so I have been so filled with ideas that I almost feel like, oh my gosh, this project, that project, this project. I could easily cast on 5 or 6 or more projects, and I know myself well enough that that's too much. So I have the Alpine bloom, I have the other glove project, I have a pair of socks that I'm finishing. That's just mindless knitting. But I would like another one on so I can kind of have more overlap. And I'm still looking for a super simple one that I could just take anywhere. Because right now, aside from the sock, I don't have much for just bringing someplace to knit. But anyway, I want to tell you about 3 different patterns that I am thinking about right now. And one of them I swatched. And the reason I'm wearing my Pressed Flowers cardigan, which I knit this in, I've talked about this at great length in one of my previous episodes. So if you want to, it's not that old. I think you could find it. I'll put in the show notes what episode it was that I talked about it for the finish. But for this one, I used lichen and lace sport, rustic heather sport, and I think it's the coal colorway, and that was my background color. And then for this contrast, again, I used the very, very same Entropy DK that I'm using for this. So this is exactly the same as what I used here, which I think is quite phenomenal because they look so different. But in the Pressed Flowers cardigan, you are really creating a fabric of your contrast color and your contrast color and your main color. So almost every row is going to have both colors, which really changes the look. So now I'm sure people have seen all over there. It started with the Pressed Flowers shawl, then the cardigan, a pullover, there's a cowl, there may be even socks. I know there's a hat. And now she has come out with a vest. So here is the vest. And this one is different in that, so she has held the flower part, she's held 2 strands of mohair together, and then the main color, the background main color, she is making that the gradient. So very, very different. Instead of having this solid color and the gradient be the flower, she's reversed it for the vest, and you can see it's more obvious down here. Because it's mohair, the flowers don't pop quite as much, and of course it always depends on what you've chosen as your contrast color. But you can see it's a very simple edging here on the neck and the sleeves. There's only one test knitter, and the test knitter chose to do a rib collar and sleeves, so it has a little bit of a different look, and has chosen a light version, and she talks quite a lot. So if you go, I'll put the link for the vest, and then you could just look at that test knitter. I forget her name, but she has a lot. She's the only one who has a finished vest, and she's talked a lot about it. So she compares the vest to the cardigan if you were choosing one or the other. So anyway, I saw that and I thought, oh, what's nice about the vest is it could be a stash buster because it doesn't use that much yarn. For the main color, you don't use that much yarn. And so I was going through my stash, and Let me just see. So she's using sport weight yarn as she did for this, and she has the same gauge, 24 stitches to the inch again. But, you know, if you're using different yarn, you shouldn't just assume you have the same gauge. So that led me, I do have this lichen and lace rustic heather sport in a, here we go, in this color. So I thought about that as my background, but I also had, this is Ullcentrum 3-ply sport weight. I got it at Woolly Thistle, and I used it to knit a striped sweater, and probably one of my most viewed videos was about wearing rustic wool, and I was talking about this yarn. I do find just putting it here, to me it is very prickly. I tried very hard to say something different, but I can't. I mean, I find this is rustic. The lichen and lace is considered a really rustic yarn. I don't know what it is. I do feel like there's, to me, an extra prickle here, but other people have said very different things. So I did think later that this would be an excellent cardigan or something like a vest where I'm wearing something underneath it. I love the structure. It's worsted spun yarn. It's just, I love knitting with it. So anyway, I do have enough of this to put as the main color for the vest. And I also have enough of this color, also again, the Ullcentrum, same project, past project, and I could use this as my background color. So I started swatching, and I used the dark color, and I'm wearing this to show you why I'm probably not going to go in this direction. I chose the dark color, and then after I did it, I said, Dennis, does this look too close to my, because look how dark. Look at, it's not identical, but boy, it's pretty darn close. So anyway, here's my swatch. I'm going to put my hand under. It is, I do have gauge, but I think because of the mohair is so light, you can actually see quite a bit underneath. See that? Can you see my finger moving? So it's pretty light, but I have to say that's kind of appealing to me for a vest. So there's a couple interesting things. I'm using 2 different mohairs. These are single skeins, and one of my goals for the year was to try not to buy so many single skeins. If I'm gonna fall for a color, you can see why I fell for this color. But I'm gonna, in the future, I'm hoping to buy 2. If I'm in love with it, buy 2. So I do have enough for a sweater, because I have one of these and I have one of these. Another, you can see why I bought this one too, right? Aren't they lovely? Oh, I just like, oh my God, they're so sweet and tender and lovey. Anyway, but this, I held them together as she did in the pattern. I did holding 2 together, and it came up with this color. So I do love the color. I do love it. I'm just not sure if this is where I want to go. So I think I'll fondle the yarn for a while and see. I might still do it this way, even though it does have a similarity to this one. But this changes color a lot. And this would be basically a solid. So I would be going off the pattern. I wouldn't be using a yarn that changes color. I would use these, and I do think it would be fun. And I have to say that the most amazing thing, it makes a wonderful fabric, and it changes the fabric into something way softer because of the mohair. So the other thing I could do is I could replace the dark color with this lighter gray, and I bet that would also be nice. That's one idea. And then the final thing, I don't see it here, but I do have a navy blue. I think that cone, no, it's not there. I do have I have more of this cone, and I could do it with this very navy blue contrast, which would be a whole different look, but also could be really nice. So 2 skeins held together should be enough for the vest. More than enough, I think. So anyway, potential stash buster here. Something to think about. If you haven't done a pressed flowers, you might enjoy a garment that's less of a commitment than the cardigan. I did find this was time consuming. I do find that slip stitching is more time consuming for me than to knit stranded. But it would be a fun little way to get your pressed flowers fix, which is very fun to do. So anyway, I offer that. So we'll see if that's the direction I go next. But I enjoyed doing the swatch, and it is fun to see what mohair can do to some leftovers. And the very best part would be I have just awkward amounts of this yarn, and it would be really nice to use it up. I think there's about 300 yards or meters in a skein, and I believe I have at least 2 skeins of each of these, and probably more than that. So that's number 1. Okay, the other thing, now it looks like I have 2 projects. Do I have it here? All right, I have one of them. So after making my scrappy cardigan, I felt like, okay, I love all these color work sweaters and everything, and my Alpine Bloom is not exactly your everyday sweater either. My scrappy sweater is very bright. This is the most muted of the last of the things I've had going on. So what I'm finding I'm lacking is some basic cardigan sweaters. So one I'm looking at is the Timepiece Cardigan by Albina McLaughlin. I did a sweater of hers called the Ultimate Lazy Cardigan about 2 years ago. I absolutely loved her design. I had an unfortunate choice of yarns for that. You know how that goes. I think I was too determined to use some wool in my, it was wool and silk in my pantry that I really wanted to use up. I could never figure out what to do with it. It wasn't a good choice. So sometimes it's better to just let things go. And I did give away the rest of that yarn to a fellow knitter who ended up using it for a shawl, and it looks fantastic. But for something about the way the silk is wearing, it looks, to me, it looks, it just doesn't look nice and crisp. It looks worn already, and it's kind of weird. So that's a heartbreaker because the pattern was fabulous. So the one I'm looking at right now of hers, of Albina's, is this timepiece cardigan. And what I like about it is that I love how the pocket fits into the ribbing. And that line she has going down the band, you can do or not do. I probably won't do it. But the button band is part of the knitting. It's integrated band, so you're not picking it up later. So when you finish it, it's finished. So that one is a, oh my, I have show notes all over the place here. This one, like many of her patterns, you can use almost anything from DK to Aran weight, and she has different directions for it. And also she has used a lot of Nutiden by Honor Och. I can't remember. Honor Och year, I believe. And a year ago, I bought a whole bunch of Nutiden yarn because I was so anxious to try it, and I'm embarrassed, not embarrassed. I haven't gotten around to doing it yet. I had to do some reading about it. I did a little bit of swatching and was like, oh, this is going to take some care in learning how to reduce my tension to use this, but I do really want to try it. And I'm thinking that this timepiece cardigan would be a good mix. I've also heard from people, I've also heard that each one of these colors are unique and they never create them again. And they're also unique in terms of the wool that's used. And some of them are more delicate than others, and I feel like this might be more delicate than some others. I don't know, but I have heard that if you're having trouble keeping, not breaking the yarn, that holding it with mohair can be very effective. I heard this from Fiber Tales in her most recent episode. So I do have this mohair, and this is Knitting for Olive silk mohair. It's the mohair that I believe I have enough information to feel confident that it was made as ethically as possible. And I've gotten my information from Making Stories when they talk about this yarn. So when I saw this summer when I was in Boulder and I saw this yarn, I got 3 skeins of it and wish that I had gotten 4. So that's if there's any resolution, it's to try and make sure I buy enough and try not to be too overly concerned. I mean, if you're going to go in for a penny, in for a pound, if you're going to go and get 3 skeins, why not have enough for a garment? So 3 could be enough, possibly, but I'm going to try to find another one of these. This Nutiden has a purple, a kind of a lavender cast to it in certain light, but it also, in other light, looks just very gray, and I think that's true of both these. But I think the mohair is a little bit more lavender and would bring out the lavender tones. So that is another idea. I have to tell you that this, I wouldn't say it's super soft, but I really do feel like it is so close to the sheep. It's just, I could make a pillow out of it or something. It's really nifty, and I would like to experiment with it and see what I can do. So I'm going to try this. I also thought about trying something simpler like a shawl, but I think I am going to try this first. So I will keep you posted on that. And then the other project is that I have been thinking about for a while is the Building Blocks Cardi by Amy Sher. And it's a bottom-up multifunction V-neck cardigan. Oh, I should say that the pressed flowers vest is bottom-up as the cardigan was. So keep that in mind. It is not drop shoulder like this one is though, so there shouldn't be any. I'm hoping you just go straight up. There'd be no shaping. Get to here, and then you start decreasing to do the front and the back on the vest. This one is bottom up. It's a V-neck cardigan and a vest, so you can do either the cardigan or the vest. And I am thinking of using my yarn. So I'm going to pause and show you. Well, I'm not pausing the camera, but I'm grabbing yarn that I meant to have at the ready. So one reason I've been particularly concerned about my finding that I'm purchasing a lot of one yarn, but not necessarily enough for a cardigan or for the projects I have. One reason it has really is on the forefront of my mind is that I bought this yarn in Ireland, a very, very special trip to Studio Donegal, and I am now wishing that I had bought more. So I think what happened is we were also buying some Studio Donegal, a different, not this line. This is Donegal Aran Tweed, and we were using the soft, I forget the name of it, the soft tweed. It's around here somewhere, for my husband's sweater. And when I was doing all my calculations as to how much yarn I needed for a sweater, I forgot that this yarn only has 88 yards in a skein. So I only have about 700 and something yards of this. And so it's really not enough for a sweater. So probably. So my thought was that I would start, apparently the pattern starts, the vest is the basic right here, and then it's a drop shoulder, and if I had enough, then I could finish it up with this. But this would also be very fun pattern. You do have to pick up the button band and the sleeve band, but I think it would be a really useful garment. I know I'd use it a lot, and I do love my Tweedy yarn here. So anyway, those are the projects. I can't believe how long I've talked, and hopefully haven't been blathering too much. I've been trying to talk about matters of substance and not dither, but here we go. It's getting late, but I do want to talk one little bit about my book I just read. I've read 4 books this month so far, and I'm just not going to recommend every book I read, but the one that you might be interested in, some of them are sad or unusual or strange, and I'm not sure about them, but I will try and be more broad in how I'm looking at this, but I've read some real downers lately. It's hard for me to, maybe with some distance, I could give a more objective review, but there's one in particular I'm just reeling from. So maybe I'll come back to it next month. But one I enjoyed that didn't take major emotional input was The Farmer's Wife by Helen Rebanks. And you may have heard me, if you've watched before, I've talked about two books by her husband, James Rebanks. One was The Shepherd's Life, about his life as a farmer raising sheep, Herdwick sheep in the Lake District in England. And the other book he wrote is Pastoral Song, which is a broader look about farming and doing, I don't know if he uses the words climate beneficial farming, but he's talking about bringing the land back to nature as much as possible. The sheep they're raising are Herdwick sheep, which are used for, he's talking about meat sheep, not wool sheep. So when I first started reading their books, I was thinking, I was a little disappointed initially that I wasn't going to hear about wool making, but I still found both of his books very entertaining and interesting. And then her book, when it came out, I belong to the Wool Channel, and they were reading that as a book club, so I decided to read it. Quickly ordered it on my Kindle. It's a very, very fast read, and it is filled with lots of recipes also. So if that's your cup of tea, and I do love that. But her view, it's called The Farmer's Wife, and she's talking about the whole farming experience, but from her point of view, raising 4 children and taking care of so many pieces of the farm that really don't have anything to do specifically with the rearing the sheep and everything. It's really the farmer's wife's point of view. I found it very enjoyable. In the group, we had conversations about, her life being described in terms of her husband, being the farmer's wife as opposed to a co-farmer or any other way you might think about it. But it is very interesting, and he acknowledges in his books that he could never do what he was doing on the farm without her doing what she was doing. So very quick, fun book if you're interested in that kind of thing. In some ways similar to a book I read last year called This Dirty Life, which I reviewed in one of my episodes, and I will make a note as to what that one was, but very similar in that both women married somebody who had a vision of what they wanted, of being a farmer, and it wasn't their vision, but they embraced it, and it became their life as well. So anyway, I hope that you are having a good winter. January is now almost behind us. It's January 29th, and we have just 1 or 2 more days, and we'll be into February, and it is just going lickety-split. So I feel like I'm knitting all the time. Sometimes I'm puzzled by how little is accomplished, and then suddenly I have a finished object and I'm wearing it all the time and I enjoy it. So I don't know how it is for you. I can see some of you are very productive and just producing beautiful garments very quickly, and I seem to be still in my muddling and thinking, but eventually I do come out with some things I really love. This was a huge project for me, and I'm really happy I did it, but it does take me a while, so partly because I spend a lot of time ruminating. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I'd love it if you commented, if you have any thoughts about what you're doing, any comments on what I'm doing. I'd really love to hear from you. So thank you very much. Do remember to subscribe if you haven't. That really helps a lot. And I'm moving quickly towards my 2,000 subscribers, so that's pretty exciting. Okay, take care and happy knitting.